episode of Between Sessions. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Felicita Chipak today. Felicita is an SLP who sits right at the intersection of creativity, technology, and neurodiversity affirming care. Fella specialises in play-based, client-centred paediatric therapy, and she's known for bringing truly innovative tools and technologies into her sessions. For that reason and many, many more, I'm absolutely delighted to be having a chance to speak with her today. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, David. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Well, without further ado, everyone's here to hear your answers to the questions rather than me rattle on. So I'm going to jump straight into question one. Now, the great part of this question is it takes you back right to the start of everything. So I'd like you to go right back to the start for a moment when SLP became your path. Was it a person, was it an experience, or was it something outside of that you can't really explain?
Well, I really enjoyed this question and pondering about my path here because as many professionals have found in this field, they've diverged from one field to the other to find their way into the SLP community. So going back to my origin, I grew up in New York City, was with a single mom, my older sister, and my community was really based on a lot of interactions with people who were disabled. I had friends who were on the spectrum, visually or hearing impaired, my sister being one of them, and was able to play with them for hours and hours on end. Whether they were in a wheelchair, whether they had an intellectual disability, we were always able to come together as friends and diversify our play so that it was accessible for everyone. So I feel like I have a lifetime experience of really diversifying play and neuroaffirming interactions. But my winding road as I was growing up, led me down. I really wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted that from as far back as I can remember. I have a very personal love of animals. I worked in animal sanctuaries at the Bronx Zoo and was very dead set that animals were my career, my future. Did not think I would diverge into working with humans. But as I was working through those fields, I, was a little burnt out by the end because I realized veterinarians, you go through all this schooling and all this thing, and then it's very hard emotionally when I am in the room when a family member is putting their animal down. And I realized, well, maybe this is not quite the path for me. Maybe I don't have the fortitude it takes, to be in that role. So I had to explore, especially as I was, approaching my 30s, had dropped out of high school, had dropped out of college because I was really forging my own path the whole time. Yeah. I was working at different jobs and really trying to feel what was my path. And as many people of their early 20s, are really trying to figure out what their path is. I was fortunate to come across a speech from Alan Watts, a philosopher who's now since passed, who posed the question, what would you be doing if you had to not worry about money? How would you spend your time? And it came to me at a time where like I said, I had different professions. I worked in chocolate factories. I worked in opening my own costume business. And I was really trying to explore my passions and turn them into a career. And at that point I said, well, wait, I don't want to really focus on the monetization of my passions. What would I be doing? And it really boiled down to, I love creating art. I'm a cosplayer. I appreciate video games. I'm a gamer, a lifelong gamer as well. I really appreciate all forms and media of art, and I love to explore that. So that is definitely one way I would spend my time if I didn't have to worry about money. But another one was helping people. I genuinely loved helping people. I loved getting them through the most difficult parts of their life. And because I could be a grounding person who is centered and can help them align to their best versions of themselves, that seemed to be a calling for me. So I was getting those tidbits about myself together. And then I had to sit there because I was also pregnant with my second child during this intersection of my life and said, what am I going to do to have the life I want? And that's where I worked backwards from the life I wanted, the house, the car, the summer vacations with my family, and had to work backward and see practically how could I work in a profession that can align these creative and this drive to help people and this practical, that I do have to worry about money. We do live in this world. And what can I do to have the life I want? And that's when I Googled up, the 10 most growing professions in the industry right now. And SLP was the one that I locked on. I didn't even notice the other options, honestly. After that, I said, wait, it clicked at that moment that, I am pregnant with my second child, starting all over again. And this is the path I want to go. So was able to go back to school, even with my little child and my two children. Did survive the pandemic through grad school and became the SLP I am today.
Amazing. I think, do you know what? It's brilliant that you've managed to look at things objectively first and foremost, because a lot of time panic kicks in, and I can't think of a time where people would be more panicked around finances than being pregnant with your second child. So well played to you for being able to strip it all back. But the fact that you've been able to marry up two things that are so important to you and that you enjoy as well, and I know from the time that we've spent together, you're incredibly passionate about what you do and about helping people. And the fact that with the work that you do, which we'll go on to see throughout today's session, the fact that you've been able to fuse in that artistic, that love of media and gaming into the work that you do really just increases that level of desire and passion for you, doesn't it? And it marries the two up really well. Another point I wanted to touch on, it's really interesting to hear somebody come from a different industry into SLP and talk about leaving the other one because of burnout and maybe not having the levels of fortitude needed for it. This industry thrives on that as well. So that's really interesting that you've saw that in something else and then managed to apply the right attitude and passion for this industry that you're in today.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, there's not a singular path that will lead you to it. It really is about the journey and what you pick up along the way.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Thank you very much for sharing that. And jumping into question two. So just for one moment, strip away the challenges. On its very best days, what is it about the work that makes everything worth it?
So really what really draws me in and helps me to get the energy to do all I do for my students is that moment of awe when they're running to my classroom, excited to see what I've drawn up in my classroom. So my entire classroom transforms every couple of weeks. I incorporate thematic play-based therapy sessions, but I create an immersive environment, whether it's through building a cardboard rocket ship and then going on a green screen adventure through space and meeting aliens, or next week they'll open up the door and there'll be a drive-through restaurant there. Well, they actually have to, sorry, my dog. So they'll actually have to explore what it takes to open up a restaurant and how to communicate to the customers and role play with me. So what I am so excited to do is create those meaningful experiences for my students. And when they light up and they actually forget they're in a therapy session, that's really what I look forward to every time I do what I do. Those nights I spend up making those cardboard houses or putting together my sensory adventures. It really boils down to how are they going to receive this and what is it going to light up in them and how is it going to motivate them towards the goals we've been working on.
Yeah. Totally, and I can completely understand it because last time we met, I had the pleasure of exploring through a forest with you, didn't I? And we took a little journey through the forest, and I can completely understand how children of varying ages would gravitate towards that sort of learning and interactive play style. Even as a fully grown adult, it was really interesting to see.
Yes, and if I may share a case study, one of my most successful stories. So I'm in my clinical fellowship about 6 months in, working with a private practice and working with a 5-year-old who came to us who had severe nutritional deficiencies because he had a very restricted preferential diet. Yeah. He was also highly unintelligible, but the one thing he definitely got across was that he was a big Minecraft fan. And so I said, let's take the path of least resistance. Let's engage with what excites him to begin to have access to the modalities of therapy that he will be going through, to get him to where he needs to be in his feeding and his language and all his holistic goals, that I could provide for him. So being at the time my sons were the same age, I had actually been very familiar with the Minecraft world. We were building together. We had whole villages. We knew how to craft things. So I knew his language. I understood everything. So I got all the materials, all the visuals. Everything was based on Minecraft. So we started making smoothie recipes using Minecraft visuals. And I even became Steve. And once Steve came out, trust me, he was in, and he would try kale smoothies. He would try anything as long as it had a Steve sticker slapped on it. It was approved by Steve. It was safe. It was okay. It was a trusted person that in his life that he really connected with. But that's where also the virtual adventure. So when his family had difficulties actually making it to the sessions and we had to pivot to virtual, that's where I became immersed in the Minecraft world. So we would explore it together and sometimes even play Roblox together. We'd game together at the end of the sessions as a type of reward. And that's where I learned he was hyperlexic and he could actually read well beyond what we imagined. So if it wasn't for taking this avenue, we wouldn't have unlocked that person that was in there. And I still have the benefit of being in touch with his family and watching him grow and getting updates. And I'm just so amazed at what we unlocked and the potential that we, brought forth in his world.
Yeah, honestly, that's brilliant, and what a phenomenal case study to even be part of, and the fact that it's something that you've come up with and delivered so early on as well during your fellowship. That's brilliant, and probably played a big part in the type of sessions that you ran moving forward as well, and creating those bespoke plans that you're doing with all your patients. Yeah, brilliant, and what a result, what an end result from it as well. That's terrific.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely something that takes me forward and just validates, the direction I'm taking, although it's unique and it's a different path to take, different materials, methods. It's all still converging at the same destination. And that's really unlocking the communication potential in every individual.
Definitely. Brilliant. Now, moving on to our third question, and this is an area that we've touched on a few times during our conversations, but critically important because I think every industry has its challenges, and also every industry needs to periodically move forward and innovate to try and improve on it. So for this question, if you could change one thing about the SLP profession in the US right now, something that you think would genuinely move the needle, what would that be?
So really, I think that closing the gap between what we know about how kids learn and what we're actually, the tools that are given to us as clinicians, the flashcards, the worksheets, the drills. These are the tools that are given to us, but we haven't really bridged the gap of exploring further into these technologies. I've personally have met a couple of individuals who I'm very good friends with now, Gareth Walcom, who owns With VR, who is using his experience as a stutterer to create virtual reality environments so that others can practice using those environments and using their speech and language skills in those virtual environments. Or Eric Raj, who is of Monmouth University, he created SLP video games. So he created little 8-bit video games that you can play with your students, but also incorporate their goals in it. And I was given that access during my graduate school, and I saw immediately my students light up when I pull up those video games. So there are people out there who are innovating, who are bringing forth new technologies, who are using meaningful experiences in their therapy sessions to really access a student's potential. And I think that's something that should be discussed more widely, should be more accessible to early and even long-time practicing clinicians who may be hesitant to incorporate new technology and want to stick to the old tried and true methods. But we really want to stick to what works with learning. So really what it is that I would say, attention is the key component in all therapy, in really any interaction. And what I'm seeing with a lot of students is the lack of attention, very short, quick attention spans. That's that kind of TikTok thinking, really quick-minded, quick. If something doesn't grab your attention, you're moving elsewhere. How do we sustain that attention so that we can also create further engagement, and we can also create meaningful memories? And we already know that the education research is out there that when you incorporate meaningful experiences into a lesson, memory actually improves. And with memory becomes a building of skills. It gives you a skill set, something to build from. So how do we create these meaningful experiences and immersive environments? Well, that's where I'm coming in and building something new. Yes, it'll be a new platform where it will be more accessible to create those innovative, bespoke, meaningful experiences for clinicians everywhere, where they can learn to do it on the weekend and take it into practice Monday.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I've no doubt the platforms will be incredibly enjoyable for those that get an opportunity to use them as well. Quick shout out, I'd highly recommend exploring it as much as you possibly can. As I said, I've had a short exposure to it and thought it was absolutely brilliant. So I can understand completely why the children and the patients that you see really enjoy getting involved in them. Wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
Great stuff. Moving on to our final question for today's session. Someone brilliant is sitting on the fence about the SLP industry, or maybe they're 6 months into the clinical fellowship, questioning everything that they're doing. What do you want them to hear from you now, whether that be a piece of advice or guidance, but what would you like them to hear from you today?
So actually, I'll kind of take it back to my beginning point, that Alan Watts question, but I'll kind of change it a little bit for this specific context. So as an SLP, if you didn't have to worry about documentation, about productivity standards, about the time you had to put into work, what kind of SLP would you be? What type of experiences would you want to have with your students? I think this is an important question because it really gets to the crux of who you are as a person. What motivates you? What are the things you do that put you in a flow state and you can do for hours and hours on end, endlessly researching, with passion? That is the thing you need to find, not only discover within yourself, because you can only really meet people as far as you've met yourself, right? So you really have to explore what kind of clinician you want to be, and don't leave all of your passions aside to be this professional SLP. You bring your whimsy, bring your weirdness. If you're a musician, bring music into it. If you're an artist, bring your craft table into it. It's really about not becoming this professional who is restricted by these standards, and being yourself, because we can really now, we're at a time with the inclusion of AI where we can really detect subtle differences in what's genuine and what's not. Yeah. And that all goes into communication. I always say, if I could write a book about communication, there may not even be a chapter, maybe at the end, verbal communication. Yeah. There are so many ways in which we communicate and express ourselves that we have to incorporate and have to explore with other individuals if we truly want to make a meaningful difference in someone's life and bring out the best of themselves to bring forward to the world.
Couldn't agree more. I think nothing stronger than authenticity, is there? And I think when you bring in sort of passion and personal passion into something like that, the quality of your work is just extrapolated beyond belief, isn't it?
It totally is. And, it's really what's going to prevent burnout and disengagement from the field in the long run. If you're not doing what you love and doing it for money, then what are you doing? And it's similar to a saying I always tell my students: if we're not having fun, then what are we really accomplishing here?
Yeah. Wonderful. Honestly, thank you so much for getting involved in the series. It's been brilliant getting a chance to hear some of the innovation that you're involved in, and really just, incredibly interesting to hear your background and find out more about the sort of work that you're doing. So genuinely, thank you so much for contributing.
And thank you for your contribution as well. I wish I had come across a podcast like this when I was in grad school.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.